South Africa has a peak electricity demand profile in winter. Eskom says the demand shows a rapid increase in electricity usage of approximately 4,000 megawatts. The power utility says this is predominantly due to increased use of space heating, geysers, pool pumps and cooking appliances. Eskom says the electricity demand reaches a maximum during the evening, which is referred to as the evening peak between 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. The greatest increase and risk period of load shedding in winter is between 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. To maintain supply capacity when faced with winter demand, Eskom says it has adjusted its maintenance schedule so that the additional capacity becomes available in winter by doing less maintenance in this period. It, however, says the scheduled maintenance continues for the long-term plant health. During this time, key industrial customers assist by reducing their demand over the peak time. Let's, of course, bring in some analysis around this. Some reaction as we welcome Eskom Board Chairperson Mteto Nyati, who joins us for a discussion. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. As we look at the record so far, it's almost like one has to pinch themselves. How has Eskom avoided load shedding for well over 60 days? For one, as you and I speak, the elections are over, so there's really nobody to desperately impress at this stage. What do we owe this achievement to?
First of all, thank you so much for having me, Mpo, and good evening to your viewers. And indeed, we never set ourselves to impress anybody, Mpo. When we embarked on this journey about a year ago, it was around March when we started implementing the generation recovery plan. Our goal was to make sure that we get rid of load shedding in 2 years. We are a year into that plan, and we're already starting to see some benefits, clear benefits of executing the maintenance over the last year. And we are now on day 70, where we have not been having load shedding. And of course, we do not expect South Africans to be congratulating us around that. But within Eskom itself, we are celebrating some of these milestones, because we know where we come from, how difficult it has been, and we are very clear about going forward. We have done the maintenance that was required in summer to prepare for this winter. As we go into this winter, we are going much more confident, but we are not out of the woods yet, Mpo.
Yeah. With some of those improvements, how much of a factor has the private sector solar generation assisted in keeping load shedding away?
It certainly has improved. It has assisted during the day, Mpo. As you know, that most of the solar, most of the households, they've implemented solar, and that solar is effective during the day. And you mentioned during your introduction that the challenges largely in winter comes in around between 5:30 and 9 o'clock in the evening. That's where we have the peak, and we do not have the sun shining during that time. So we have to rely largely on the availability of our equipment. And that's why we had to make sure that we reduce significantly what is called the unplanned downtime or the unplanned outages. And as we enter into this winter, we're entering it with a very, very reduced level of unplanned outages and much more reliable fleet. And that's what makes us to be quite confident. But indeed, during the day, it helps a lot that the solar that has been implemented by South Africans.
Yeah, with South Africans being very aware that there's a peak electricity demand profile in winter, what will begin to happen as the winter chills and heightened demand settles in? How long will it be until load shedding begins to rear its ugly head again?
Our intention is not for us not to have load shedding during this winter. We've got 3 scenarios that we have mapped out for ourselves, and we shared with all of the South Africans about a month ago, where on scenario 1, where we call it a base case, we have a plan. The assumption is that unplanned outages will be around 14,000 megawatts. And in that scenario, there is no load shedding during winter. In scenario 2, where unplanned outages are much higher at 15,500 megawatts, the maximum stages of load shedding in that scenario is stage 2. And that we called, at that time, we called that as a likely scenario. And then there's scenario 3. But where are we now? We are sitting at unplanned outages at around 12,000, some days 11,000 megawatts, significantly less than the base case, which gives us a lot of reserve to be able to see ourselves through winter. So given where we are, if things remain as they are, we believe that we should not see the likely scenario of stage 2, Mpo.
Yeah. When the power goes off, is it always a case of load shedding? For instance, as you and I speak, areas like Alexandra, north of Johannesburg. In fact, as SABC News, we have just covered a developing story there where residents have come to the streets with rocks and really protesting because city power has not reinstated their supply. And of course, they've also warned residents that if they don't reduce electricity consumption, it may lead to prolonged power outage. Just to perhaps explain the differences here as we look at both scenarios and the likelihoods of the colder winter months.
Yeah, at the time when we used to have load shedding, it used to mask some of the problems elsewhere within the network. We typically are supplying from us sometimes directly to the customers, and in most instances we supply electricity via the municipalities. The infrastructure of the municipalities, in some cases, is not up to the right level. As a result, you may have some challenges at a local level. So in this case, for the last 70 days, we did not have load shedding, but we hear that there are some areas where there are challenges. And those challenges come in different ways. It could be infrastructure that has not been maintained at a local level, at a municipality, but in many cases, it is about illegal connections, which is something that is driven largely by the communities themselves. It is here that we're asking communities to pay attention to this, because it ends up blowing up the transformers, which then impact the entire communities, and which is something that we clearly all do not want. So this is here that each and every one of us have to take responsibility. Let's manage people, make sure that there are no illegal connections, and also at a local level where municipalities are responsible for infrastructure, it is critical that they maintain those infrastructure. The fact that now we don't have load shedding, some of these weaknesses are becoming visible at a local level, and we need to attend to those, meaning municipalities themselves need to attend to those challenges.